to introduce your next speaker. This doctor's been in practice for almost 25 years and practicing implantation. He's the best-selling author of Born a Champion, Master Strategy for Maximum Health and Lasting Success, Chiropractor of the Year, three separate times. Everybody put your hands together for Dr. David Yachter! All right, so we've at least begun the stress management portion of our workshop tonight. Got you to laugh. You know that children laugh 125 times a day? Probably 100 times more than adults. So there is application with that. Tonight's a little bit different of a workshop. I've never done this one before. We put this together from the ground up, and I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So we're not going to have awards, we're not going to have the massage, I'm not going to be throwing t-shirts at your head. Nobody will get hurt, you're all safe. Women's health. What's this all about? How many of you guys would like to have more good days than bad? Feeling better in terms of your energy, your overall health, how you look and how you feel? How many of you guys would like to learn how to knock off a few pounds? Easy as 10 pounds you ever want to lose. Okay. More joy, more peace. All of this has to do with your hormones, has to do with your body chemistry. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that tonight. I can't do everything tonight, but we can cover the basics. So I'll distill down a couple of different things, how it applies to everything in terms of how we grow up, adolescence, as we age, menopause, beyond, and some of the reasons why we feel the way we do, and maybe some solutions to boot. Sound good? Some shocking stats about women's health. First being 36% of women over the age of 20 are considered obese. That's 36%. 32% of women 20 years and over have hypertension. 1 in 3 women die of heart disease and stroke. As a matter of fact, 50% of the time, actually 60% of the time, the first symptom of a woman having a heart attack is death. So it's very serious. Twice as many women suffer from depression than men. 75% of autoimmune diseases occur in women. Lung cancer is the most common form of cancer in women. Did you know that? Not breast cancer. Lung cancer, yes. 10% of U.S. couples deal with infertility. I had a couple just start here. I was on TVN back in 2006. I did a segment on TV about infertility and chiropractic, and it was one of my patients was under care, and she asked me. She said, my daughter and her husband, they've been trying to get pregnant for a long time. They have not been able to do it. They've gone to fertility specialists for 7 years, spent thousands and thousands of dollars. Think it has anything to do with a problem with their nervous system. I said, well, usually, if the nerves that exit the spine and the lower back go to the reproductive organs, if there's interference there, it can cause that. I've seen that. And I said, if that's the cause, then maybe I could help her. So she came in, make a long story short, I started adjusting her, took care of her for, I guess, just a couple of months. And what do you think happened? She got pregnant. Yeah. So her mom was the floor director for TVN at the time, had me on. We did a thing on that. And it has everything to do with your hormones, and you're going to find out tonight what controls all the hormones. I'm going to show you what you may be doing to mess them up, but there's a master controller for all the hormones in your body, and it's called your nervous system. So we're going to tie all that in together. You're going to learn about that. I had a couple that just started care, and they started because they want to conceive a child. And so they're getting their spine adjusted, but unfortunately they weren't able to be here tonight so that they could learn about all the other things that they need to do to balance the hormones, because a hormone imbalance will cause that. 10% of U.S. couples, that's 1 out of 10 couples struggle with infertility. Did you guys realize that? I almost left that stat out. I'm like, oh, that's not significant. Really? What happens if that goes to 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 or like a third? We could be on our way to extinction as a human species. That's a huge challenge. Huge. So when we have all these health problems, what do they give us when you go to the doctor? You get what? You get a pill. Yeah, so you get a pill for every ill in the United States. My cousin is a medical doctor in France. She laughs. Those silly Americans, they take a pill for every ill. They don't do that in other countries. In the United States, we take 50% of all the brand name drugs on the planet. We take about 70 to 75% of all the drugs on the planet. But half of the brand name prescription drugs, because the pharmaceutical companies, many of the biggest ones are American companies. So this is our culture. There's a pill for every ill. And when you start off as an adolescent, girls nowadays are getting their periods at 9 years old, and they're being put on birth control. And life is starting way, way too early. As soon as you go on birth control pills, that throws your hormones out. Then after your hormones get out of balance with that, and you start struggling with the regular stresses of life, your metabolism gets shot, your neurotransmitters are out of balance, and now all of a sudden you have a weight problem. Like what? How many percent? 36%? Yeah. So what is everybody looking for? The quick fix to lose weight. And the quick fix would be, fen, take some drugs, but that does serious damage to your heart. And then what happens? When you have heart damage, and most people, as you saw, 32% have hypertension. Then they put you on medication for hypertension. Just so happens some of these high blood pressure medications like Lipressor and Losartan, guess what they do? They cause weight gain, which further throws your hormones out of balance. And if that's not the hardest part with helping you lose weight, because you're up and down all the time, you can't lose weight, you don't like the way you look, you don't like the way you feel, you're labeled as depressed, what do they put you on? Antidepressants. And what do antidepressants do? Cause you to gain weight. Yeah. So it's a downward spiral, and then it's you're slowing your metabolism down more and more. When we have people stand on the scale and we look at their metabolic age, we have most people that are in their 40s and 50s. Their metabolic age is like 90. Their metabolic age is working like somebody that's twice their age. It's creeping like a turtle, and there's already damage done to the thyroid, and their thyroid's out of balance. They're toxic, which adds insult to injury. So of course. Most women, at least 1 out of 5 women, have a thyroid problem. So everybody's on Synthroid. Tamoxifen for cancer, because 1 out of 3 women get cancer. And then, of course, don't forget your Crestor and Lipitor, because who's not on cholesterol medications these days? So, it's because you guys keep coming back to the workshops. That's why you're not. But the vast majority of people that are on 1 or more of these drugs. If they're not doing anything to prevent sickness and disease, this is what's being handed to many people on a silver platter because they don't know the difference. So let's talk about the cholesterol medications, because that's another thing that hits the bullseye and strikes at the heart of hormonal imbalance. Why? Because when you're taking cholesterol medications, what is it doing to your body's production of cholesterol? It's what? Taking it down. And guess what you need to make hormones? Cholesterol. So every hormone that's made in your body starts with cholesterol. So cholesterol is necessary to make pregnenolone, which gets translated to DHEA, which is an important, abundant steroid in your body that has a lot of potential important uses for your nervous system. Progesterone is made by cholesterol, and that's your happy hormone. Because if you're not feeling so happy lately, and you're on cholesterol drugs, that's a direct cost. But from the progesterone, your body's going to make all of the hormones that whether you're a man or you're a woman. So you got your estrogen, you got your testosterone, all comes from progesterone. So which hormones come from cholesterol? Some of them or all of them? All of them. So you could see how it's a concern when somebody's on cholesterol medications as it being a causative factor for throwing your hormones out of balance. Right or right? That makes sense? And of course, coming to the workshops, you learn what to do instead. So let's talk about one of the biggest problems, because is there anybody, how many of you guys don't have any stress here tonight? Nobody? There's no takers? Okay. So when you're under stress, you got this thing called cortisol, which is a primary stress hormone. The more stress you're under, the more it unbalances your cortisol levels. Cortisol manages a lot of important functions in your body, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But basically, if your cortisol is unbalanced, all your female hormones are unbalanced. Not some of them, all of them. So the cortisol levels are, normally in the morning, they're at their peak. And when cortisol is working properly, It's managing your blood sugar, maintaining an inflammatory response. When that gets out of control and your body's riddled with inflammation, you're gonna have pain, you're gonna have arthritis, you're not gonna be able to think clearly. These are some of the side effects when cortisol is being made to go in overdrive. It decreases your metabolism, depression, hypertension, chronic fatigue, sleep deprivation, migraines, hostility, hunger, arthritis, decrease your immune system. So when you wake up in the morning, cortisol is in its highest level. It peaks out in the morning under normal conditions, and that's what allows you to jump out of bed with lots of energy and start taking charge of your day. As the day goes on, your cortisol levels go down, so you can naturally get tired and get to sleep and get a restful night's sleep, and that's how your body recharges itself. But under constant levels of stress, you burn this out, and that's what it leads to, all of these symptoms. So we need to get enough sleep because sleep will metabolize these stress hormones better than anything else. Sleep is the number one thing. You get a good night's sleep, it'll help to bring a lot of balance to a lot of bad things very, very quickly. How many of you guys know that? You know that when you get a good night's sleep, you wake up and you feel happy, you feel good. So how do we do that? It's easier said than done, right? First and foremost, you have to be disciplined. You have to know when to shut the TV, you gotta know when to wind things down, and you gotta know when to get into bed and set a time to do that. Most experts agree 8 hours is like the right amount, somewhere between 7 and 8 hours. At least 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Consistency, go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Your body has a circadian rhythm. You gotta keep it on rhythm. If you're going to sleep later, let's say on Tuesday night, and you sleep in later Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday night you go to sleep earlier and you get up earlier, it's gonna be harder to do that, and you throw your body's rhythm off. So it's always best, even on weekends, if you want to stay up late and watch a movie, you're going to feel the consequences of that the next day. I don't know if any of you guys know that feeling. I get up at 5:15 every single day, even on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's hard for me to not do that because my body is just kind of locked into that time. So if I stay up late on a Friday night and I go to sleep at 11, I'm only getting 5-6 hours of sleep. I pay the piper the next day. I usually got to take a nap or something. But consistency. That's the most important thing in order to keep your hormones balanced. Last meal. Don't eat too far or too close to when you go to sleep. At least 2 to 3 hours before you fall asleep. If you go to sleep on a full stomach, your body is digesting food and it's not resting. Can't do two things at the same time. And not to mention that your body's going to store a lot of those nutrients as fat, the protein, the carbohydrates, the sugars, instead of giving it time to digest. Another thing that stops people from sleeping very deeply is LED stimulation. What's that? It's not what you see when you watch TV. It's on your tablets. If you're reading your phone in bed, it's stimulating your brain. It's stimulating the neurons. And it is really hard to calm your brain down if you're just hitting the remote, shutting it down, and you think you're going to fall asleep. It doesn't work very well doing that. So I always recommend winding down with a hot bath or getting in bed with a book. But these things are not conducive to a good night's rest. You're usually laying in bed for a while. Next day to-do list. Why? How many of you guys find yourself thinking about worrying about all the things that you have to do the next day? Or thinking about all the bad things, or just literally just mulling over all the negative things, all the bad things in your head, and you're worried about how you're going to deal with it tomorrow, right? Why not just dump it all on a to-do list? Why not just write it down? Just do a brain dump. Write everything down. This way you don't have to be stressed out about thinking about remembering everything. Does that make sense? Yeah, so just write it down. The other thing is to sleep really good. Physiologically, your room should be like a cave. You should not have any light coming in, and it should be cold. Like at least 72 degrees. 68 to 72 degrees is the perfect room temperature. And it doesn't matter if you're cold. Get yourself a second blanket, snuggle up under there. The cooler and the darker, the better. The deeper you're going to sleep, the better you're going to sleep. And the faster you'll get your hormones back into balance. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. The second thing is stress management. Stress management equals hormone management. Cortisol. So again, when cortisol goes up, it's married to insulin. So cortisol takes insulin to the dance. When cortisol goes up, it's taking insulin with it. And insulin is a hormone, right? So when you're under stress, you're not thinking about it. Insulin's going up, and it's taking insulin up with it. And now when insulin goes up, it has the same effect as when you eat a big bowl of pasta or rice. All of a sudden, your body comes out of fat burning and it goes into fat storing. So anytime you're under stress, if you're under lots of stress, you're going to gain weight. How many of you guys have noticed that? When you're under lots of stress, it's hard to lose weight. In fact, most of you guys have seen yourself put on weight, especially as you get older, because of those out of control cortisol levels. So you've got to control that. You've got to manage that if you want to manage your weight. Maintaining morning rituals is a good way to manage your stress. If you like to meditate, that's the time you should do it. Pray. I pray every morning. I read my Bible, and then I go into my gym and I do my exercise. So I have a morning ritual. Every single morning I do the same thing. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I get quiet. I get in gratitude. And I don't do this some days. I do this every day. And this is it just happens to be part of a good recipe for stress management. It's not the reason why I do it, but it happens to be part of a smart strategy. Pray, read, exercise, read something positive. Read a devotional, read a funny, do a crossword puzzle. Just do something to stimulate yourself and take yourself away from the negative. Exercise, one of the most profound, easy, consistent ways to balance your hormones. Exercise. And I'll talk about why we do that in the morning, but a low GI performance breakfast, what does that mean? Low glycemic index. What is glycemic index? It's how much sugar content you're going to have in that food that's going to drive insulin. Because if you drive insulin, what happens? You're driving your hormones. Okay, so we're trying to get it in balance. What you want to do is you want to have a breakfast that does not drive insulin. You want to keep your hormones balanced and keep you in fat burning, so you have a low GI breakfast. And what's the low GI breakfast of champions? The Mediclear shakes. The Mediclear shakes. Some of you guys have a big bowl of fruit. You could be eating high sugar fruits. You don't know. If it's high in fructose, that's not low GI. So what you want to do is, I'm going to talk about the Mediclear shake and why it's important. And of course, when you have a low glycemic index breakfast, you want to have good fats with that also. And that also is part of keeping your blood sugar level stable and keeping insulin stable to keep your hormones stable. Make sense? All right, halfway through your day, what should you do? Unplug. What should you do? Unplug. Take 20 minutes to give your brain a rest. All right, so I've heard it say, any of the historical figures, I think it was Lincoln and Einstein and Edison, all these people, they all took what? Naps. What does Dr. Yachter do in the middle of every weekday? Take a what? A nap. I gotta take a nap. I just literally for 10 minutes, I just lay down and I close my eyes. And I'll put some headphones on and I'll listen to some either rains, you get these apps and it can simulate any nature sounds, rain or thunder or an ocean. So that's what I do every single day, and it gives my brain a rest, it recharges. You can go outside, get some sunshine, listen to music, take a walk, power nap, all these things. But you know what? It's not real until you schedule it. And you have to schedule it until it becomes a habit. Yeah, if you do it for a month, it'll become a habit. You don't have to schedule it anymore. You'll just do it because you do it. That's exactly what you do. You have your routine. How many of you guys are people of routines? How many of you guys have routines? How many of you guys just ride through life on a magic carpet? You're married to a man who has routine. That's why. So it's yin and yang. That's why you're a perfect match. My wife is like that. She's the magic carpet rider. I'm the lieutenant. I'm the army sergeant. So it's a perfect match. But I'm just sharing with you guys what I know works. And you know what? We have technology today that it really helps you. If you're not really like that, if you're not really regimented naturally, just dial it into your iPhone. Dial it into your phone. You know how you guys make appointments to do things? You put it in your phone, some of you, or your computer. I'm losing eye contact with Angie over there, so that's not a reality. It's not, is it? All right, so you have questions, just come up to me after. It's not going that well, is it? Gratitude journal daily. Strongly recommend that you guys, give thanks. Verbally, either in your prayers or journal it, write it down. Write down what you're thankful for. It will transform your life. No ifs, ands, or buts. You get what you focus on. You become what you think about all day long. If you think about garbage, you're going to get garbage. If you think about bad things, you're going to attract bad things. If you think good things, if you think love, then that's what's going to come out of you. And God's going to use you for greater and greater opportunities, but you got to get your head straight. You got to get yourself out of the way. How many of you guys know people that are just the nicest people in the world, but they're just like a magnet for problems? They're a magnet. Stuff happens to everybody. Stuff happens to me too. But it's not what happens to you, it's how you look at it. It's how you respond. Always have to give thanks. Look at where we live. We're in a beautiful community. Look at the weather, look at our country. It's in shambles right now, but we're still free. We still have freedom. We still have freedom to worship the God we want to worship. We still have freedom of speech. We still have freedom to come and congregate. We have freedom to learn and live and grow and love and do these things. It's, there's so much that we have thankful, regardless of how bad things are. You have the choice to decide on what you want to focus on. You have the choice. That's the ultimate last freedom that can be taken from you. They can take your money, they can take your house, they can take your clothes, they can take your health. The last of all the freedoms is what? What you choose to think. Yeah. And so when you start practicing that and focusing on that, it'll take you places further than you've been. That's for sure. Gratitude journal daily. Take mini vacations. This is something that everybody needs. If you don't do this, life will slip away from you very quickly, and you will get more and more stressed and out of control with no way to fix it. Every November, December, my wife and I, we sit down and we schedule our family vacations, and we schedule our mini marriage retreat. I went through a marriage class in my church. It was like 10 weeks, and we did this every Thursday. My wife and I went, and I got a lot out of it, but one of the things I liked the most about it was they tell you to go away with your spouse 4 times a year, so you guys can look at your goals and what you want to do as a family, what you want to do to serve God, what you want to do as far as, things in life, which I'm all for, the planning. I love that stuff. But I never really contemplated on God's vision for my marriage. That was like completely foreign to me. How about that? So I thought it was a good idea just to go away on a mini vacation with my wife, but now we actually get to focus on a vision that God has for our marriage, raising our children and our family and what we can do in our community and our church, and it just took things to a whole nother level. So these things don't happen unless you what? Unless you plan it. Yeah, so we lock the dates in, and then, we may make the plans, call up for the reservations, 3 months later, book the flights or whatever. We just went to Sanibel Island. We're going up to a cabin in the mountains in a couple of months. So these are things that you could do not just with your spouse, but with your family also. And you don't have to go away. You could do it locally here also. Just get away. Shake up the environment. Do something different. Yes? Make sense? Yeah. But it won't happen unless you what? Unless you plan it. Good. All right. So I found this in the funnies. I'm thinking of joining a gym. And the wife says, well, at least you're keeping mentally active. So it's one thing to think about exercising, but it's another thing to actually do it. Yeah. And as I always say, research has found and has proven that exercise has been shown to be good for your health when it's done more than once annually. So ask your doctor if getting off your butt is good for you. AM is best for compliance. Do it in the morning. Why? You're on an empty stomach. Your growth hormone, your testosterone, a lot of these hormones are at their peak levels, which will help you build more muscle more quickly. It'll stimulate your metabolism. And of course, obviously, if you do it early, then you don't have to worry about not having time to do it later, and you're much more consistent to succeed, be consistent in succeeding with your program. So, best time for fat burning, by the way. Raise your hand if you want to be a fat burner. Yeah. So this is the way you jumpstart your metabolism. First thing in the morning, empty stomach. Now you can have coffee or tea when I say an empty stomach, and I'll talk to you about the benefits of coffee or tea or caffeine, as long as it's organic and it's not sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. You can have a little bit of that, but not too much. You don't want to be abusive with it. But studies show if you do it in the morning, it actually helps with the fat burning process, if you did not know that. Walk, bike, swim 3 times a week. Do more of an aerobic type of workout. Brisk walk. And then twice a week, it's good to work with weights. Why is it good to work with weights? Yeah, you want to build skeletal muscle. It'll help prevent falls, fractures, but also it stimulates different type of hormonal production also. So the exercises are all beneficial, but there is a difference in terms of the hormonal response when you do aerobic workout versus weight training. Got it? See, it's good to mix it up a little bit. Breathe properly. When you breathe in and out fully through your nose, you're activating a certain part of your immune system, which is the rest and recover, which is your parasympathetic. So make sure that you're doing deep breathing and relaxed breathing while you're doing that. So there was a study that was done. I want to show you how profound this is with depression and your happy hormones. There was a study that was done with 80 adults, ages 20 to 45 years. They were diagnosed with mild to moderate depression, and the researchers looked at exercise alone to treat the condition. They found that depressive symptoms were cut almost by half in those individuals who participated in 30 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week after 12 weeks. So further studies confirmed that consistent exercise, like brisk walking for 30 to 45 minutes, when done consistently, 3 to 5 times a week, outperformed antidepressants. Did you know that? Yeah. So it's just a matter of getting it dialed in, waking up first thing in the morning, and doing it, and you will see the difference. So, there's not a question, there's not a doubt as far as exercise helping to balance out balance out your hormones. So let's talk about nutrition, because this is another one, this is in your handout also, balancing out your hormones before you resort to any sort of outside-in, things like hormonal replacement therapy, bioidenticals, and things like that. You want to consider going through all these things and making sure that you've already addressed these. As a last resort, you always have those things. But with your nutrition, you want to look at your diet first. And the rapid sugar peaks we talked about as far as insulin going up is what interferes with normal hormonal production. You want to eat lower sugar fruits. What are the low sugar fruits? Berries. What type of berries? Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. You have all the berries. Granny Smith apples, right? How about bananas? Yeah, not so great for, so I mean, can you have a banana? Yeah, but you may want to cut it up into a half or a third. You don't want to have a whole banana if you're trying to do this. If you've got a lot of hormonal imbalances or health challenges, these are the things you got to look out for. Cherries, pineapple, mango, very, very high in sugar. So keep with the low sugar fruits. Alcohol. What does alcohol do to your human growth hormone? It decreases it by 75%. If you're having one alcoholic beverage a day, it's going to throw your hormones out of balance in more ways than one. So these are things that have to be considered. Let's talk about grains. And this is one of those things where it just depends on your health profile and where you're at. Are grains good or bad? Should you eliminate all grains, or should you eliminate some grains? So for those of you who are struggling with your health problems, your hormones, you should probably eliminate grains altogether and just go with proteins, fruits, and vegetables. But for those of you who, you don't have, deep-rooted problems like that, and you want to have some grains, you need to look at the ones where you're going to be using sprouted grains. So unsprouted grains have breads, pasta, rice, cereal, oatmeal, crackers, and these are the unsprouted grains which you want to avoid altogether. Whether you're healthy or unhealthy, you want to avoid unsprouted grains. Unsprouted grains are bound by something called phytic acid. Phytic acid in these unsprouted grains, which are largely found in everything that's commercial and processed, everything you're going to find in the grocery store, the freshly baked breads, basically all the grains that are not sprouted they're all bound by phytic acid, and that binds the nutrients, making them unabsorbable. The sprouting process kills the phytic acid, and that's what unlocks all the nutrients so your body can actually absorb it. Did you know that? Yeah. So that's why people say, aren't grains good? I mean, they have iron, and they have all these good, healthy vitamins and minerals. Isn't it good stuff? I mean, I thought grains were good. Well, it's not the grains, it's what's been done to it. So once you sprout it, you get to enjoy all of the good benefits that they have to offer. So this is what the sprouting process looks like after these grains have been soaked. You see the sprouts are growing, right? So a good example, just so that you can see, like when you look at the label, so this would be from Ezekiel bread. When you look at the label, it says organic, sprouted soybeans, sprouted millet, sprouted wheat, sprouted barley. So look for that on the label. When you see the grains are sprouted, if you want to have that every once in a while, it may not be the worst thing for you. But again, it depends on the individual. And if you were to ask me that question, I would look at your health profile on an individual basis. Does that make sense? Okay, so you want to get the benefits of the nutrients, and if you are going to have grains, just make sure that they are sprouted. On the spectrum, you could see unsprouted grains, sugar or fructose, they decrease the majority of important hormones. So moving away from white bread, wheat bread, rye, eventually the Ezekiel bread, right? Then you have your white rice, then you have your brown rice, right? And then you have your quinoa, which again is more vegetable based. And then you have your white pasta, your wheat, your spinach, your tomato, basil. Again, these are not going to be unsprouted unless you can find some special ingredients. But that's the spectrum. You want to move away from the bad toward the not so bad. And so you will see the difference in your blood sugar. Because if you're eating, unsprouted grains, it's going to spike your blood sugar. When you're having the pasta, the rice, the cereal, the oatmeal, it's going up. And remember, when insulin goes up, what else goes up with it? Cortisol. And when cortisol goes up and insulin goes up, you have a perfect recipe for fat storing. But after the food goes into the cells, insulin's going to correct itself and come back down. You have a dip, and then the next time you have a meal, what's happening? Go back up again. And when you have something like the Mediclear shake in the morning, you have a low sugar protein source. You have like 5 grams of sugar in that, which is nothing. You have your good healthy fats. What are you doing to your insulin levels? You're what? You're keeping them level and stable. At lunch, when you have a salad and you have avocado on there, olive oil, you have your vegetables, you have your piece of chicken or fish, whatever's on there, what are you doing? You're keeping your blood sugar what? Level. At dinner, if you have a piece of chicken or fish, or let's say grass-fed meat, you're having that, and aside of that, you have your plate of vegetables, right? With butter or olive oil on it, and all you're having is meat and vegetables, and there's no refined carbohydrates, there's no unsprouted grains, right? So there's nothing to drive this. You're keeping your blood sugar what? Level. What are you doing all day long? You're what? You're fat burning. So some of you guys, you came here tonight because you want to get control of your weight. Getting control of your weight means getting control of the hormone called insulin. So it's all in the hormones. This whole game is about hormones. And so the easiest way to do that is just to make better food choices. Can everybody see that? Okay. So let's talk about coffee and also maintaining that blood sugar level, because coffee will help you do that. Now, there's good coffee and there's bad coffee. All right? Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, I love it just as much as everybody else, but it's the most heavily sprayed crop with what? Pesticides, herbicides. Are those good or are they toxic? Yeah, they're toxic. Number one, they're toxic. They have an affinity for the thyroid. They shut your thyroid down, so if your thyroid starts to slow down, what's going to happen to your metabolism? And what's going to happen to your weight? Yeah, and not to mention that it's cancer causing those toxins. The other thing about those pesticides is they and the fertilizers, they contain something called phenols, which mimic estrogen. And so when they go in your body, guess what? Your body converts it to higher estrogen levels. And guess what higher estrogen levels cause? More weight gain. Yeah. Increases your risk of endometrial cancer, breast cancer. So that comes with pesticides, fertilizers, and also the plastics. So that's why you want to have mountain-grown organic coffee, so you don't have any of this stuff in it. If you have the good organic coffee without the bad stuff in it, it actually has some benefit. Antioxidants, magnesium, which is also good for balancing the hormones, chromium, vanadium, and zinc. And it controls your blood sugar and has fat-burning effects. Now, what happens if you have too much coffee? What does that do to your hormones? It what? Throws it out of whack. So you can use it, but don't abuse it, right? It'll mess up your adrenal glands, it'll cause fatigue, it'll drive cortisol levels. So, hence the picture, right? Moderation, excess. How many of you guys know how to do coffee in moderation? Yes. Okay. So, as long as you can handle that, everybody's a little bit different, but again, I like to make the point of trying to help keep your blood sugar stable, and it also enhances the growth of new brain cells. So let's talk about the role of estrogen and progesterone. So these are the primary hormones that, when they go out of whack, you're going to lose, the happy, healthy feeling. Like the little emoji up there? Does everybody see that? Okay, you notice how it's on the progesterone side? Okay, so progesterone is the happy hormone. If you got high levels of progesterone, you're a happy camper. If you got high levels of estrogen, relatively speaking to the progesterone, you got horns coming out of your head. And you're going to rip somebody's head off, and you're not a happy camper. So this whole thing has to, come into balance at some point. But I'm going to go through with you, and you'll kind of see why, we experience things the way that we do and feel the way that we do. So high levels of estrogen serve a purpose during the menstrual cycle. And in the first 14 days during close to the ovulation stage, estrogen has to go up because it builds up the uterine lining, and that's getting ready to accept the possibility of an egg. It increases body fat, and it's preparing for the possibility of pregnancy. After that, though, you can see how progesterone comes up to maintain the uterine lining, and it helps to use fat for energy. So this definitely serves a purpose during the menstruation process. But as we get older, what happens is you could see all of those hormone levels start to decline. From age 25 to 75, there's a 35% reduction of estrogen, 75% reduction of progesterone. So by the time we reach age 50, at menopause, there's relatively a high estrogen to progesterone ratio, so it's way out of balance. So you could see the effects here because we should have higher levels of progesterone if we want to feel happy. But typically, as we get older, because our hormones are out of balance, estrogen stays higher than progesterone. Are you following me? And here, if you maintain high levels of estrogen, it can cause depression and headaches because it's a vasodilator. That's why you get your hot flashes, because you have too much estrogen. So you've got that, and on the other hand, the high progesterone levels are an antidepressant. Interferes with thyroid hormone if you have too much estrogen. Here, it facilitates thyroid hormone action. Increases blood clotting. This one normalizes blood clotting. Too high estrogen levels decrease libido, and this one restores libido. So you could see what each hormone does, and you could see how you could feel by having an excess of one hormone or the other. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So, as I said, as we're moving through life, as we get closer and closer to this age, we see where some of the problems come in, why we get hot flashes, why we're so uncomfortable, why we lose our maybe our desire for sexual activity, and all of these things change as we get older. And again, it's because the hormones are out of balance, the ratios are not there. So one of the things, and I want to make sure that you guys understand this, that I went over everything so far as eating good, exercising, managing your stress, getting sleep. These are vitally important. You never want to put anything into your body in terms of trying to manipulate the hormones one way or the other. And so the picture that I have down here, as far as the wild yam progesterone, is a cream that women put on. How many of you guys know that there's a progesterone cream that you can put on there that helps to boost progesterone levels? You got No, only two of you heard it. Okay. So let me explain to you how this works. First of all, dioxygenin is grown from Mexican wild yam. And so the pharmaceutical companies use this to make birth control pills because this is the precursor for your body's own internal processor to make its own progesterone. And from progesterone, your body makes estrogen and testosterone. So what this does is it actually stimulates your body to make its own progesterone. Does that make sense? So it's not like you're rubbing this cream on and you're putting progesterone into your body. What it's doing is it's stimulating, so when you rub the cream on your arms or your thighs or your face or your neck, it's stimulating, diestrogen is stimulating the progesterone so that it can make more estrogen. So the progesterone cream, it's going to bring that balance back where you're going to have higher levels of progesterone and lower levels of estrogen. What happens if you don't have a hormonal imbalance? Well, do you take the cream? Probably no, probably not. What happens if your estrogen levels are really out of whack? Well, you can put the cream on, and it doesn't do you any harm because your body will make what it needs. And if it doesn't need to make any more progesterone, it's not going to make it. So this is one of those things where it's a plant type of effect. So when the plant hormones go in your body, it's very easily absorbable, and your body, it serves your body in a way where it'll use it if it needs it, and it will kind of stay there and do nothing if it doesn't. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's how this works. And so again, I'm not teaching this to you guys to, promote it. I'm just showing you that there are alternatives to hormonal replacement therapy for people who have, serious biochemical imbalances. Paleo diet will promote healthy hormone levels, protein from meat and fish, healthy fats such as egg yolk, lard, butter, also improve progesterone levels. You gotta have the good healthy fats in your diet. That's gonna help balance that out. So the paleo diet, as we've spoken about in the past, is the fish, the wild meats, grass-fed meats, eggs, nuts, low-sugar fruits, like we've talked about, right? And the greens and the vegetables. What's not in the paleo diet? Refined processed foods, sugars, grains, dairy. I would not recommend that. So we also have to look at the protein sources that we're getting as well. If you look at the chickens that they make today, what do they do to plump the chickens up? They give them lots of what? Lots of hormones, yeah. At 5 weeks, they take them to market to be slaughtered because their body weight is so heavy that their legs can't hold them. So when they're pumping the chickens full of growth hormone and we eat it, what happens? Yeah, so we're getting that stuff, and again, it's further throwing things out of balance. So whatever chicken you're going to have, what do you want to make sure that it's no hormones, no antibiotics, free range? Same thing with the eggs. Same thing with the fish, because what do they feed the fish? They feed them growth hormone, yeah, and they feed them grain, some of them. So the wild sources are the best, and then the meats should be grass-fed. Now, meats in and of themselves, science has shown do elevate estrogen levels to some degree, so I would recommend having meat sparingly, even if it is grass-fed. So that's what's going to help you if you stay on the paleo diet, if you eat mostly proteins, fruits, and vegetables. It's going to help to level out those progesterone levels and the DHEA, which is, again, the nerve system steroid, which helps with building muscle, bone, your metabolism, and that's an important hormone as well. So add good fats. Again, most of you guys know you should be doing is having nuts every day, specific type of nuts, walnuts, almonds. These are going to offer you the best bang for the buck as far as getting your hormones back in balance. Olives, avocado every day, even a half an avocado if you put it on your salad. Coconuts, coconut oil, olive oil, and butter. Make sure your butter is grass-fed. Make sure it's what? Grass-fed. Grass-fed, very, very important. Okay, so not only is it good to balance out your hormones, but it's good for fat burning also. All right, magnesium-rich foods. Also improve your sex hormone levels. This is in your handout as well. Magnesium specifically with testosterone and human growth hormone. So you have a copy of this in your handout where you can look. Obviously the most magnesium-rich food you're going to find is the spinach. That's 40%. The rest of them start to decrease steadily, but all of these are good sources of magnesium, especially the dark chocolate, right? You guys picked up on that? All right, you see the banana here, but again, you got to go easy on the banana. So yeah, you got your magnesium in there, but you don't want to have too much sugar because you don't want to throw insulin out of balance. Make sense? Okay, so let's talk about detoxification because, again, we've got the plastics and we've got the toxins, and they will all affect us in different ways, but ultimately they all throw your hormones out of balance. If you have mercury or amalgam fillings, that's going to leach mercury. If you're having, cans of soup or you're heating up foods in plastic, and that's going to leach the plastic. And it's the BPA, which is the phenols, which are estrogen mimickers. So first thing you want to know is that toxins attack your thyroid. And so the question isn't, are you toxic? The question is, how toxic are you? We live in this world where everything, from the food, the water, the air we breathe, the makeup, the products that we use, the household products, the germ killers, sanitizers, the cleaning, all these things, they all have chemicals in them. So some of them are directly going to affect you with your estrogen because they're estrogen mimickers, and some of them are going to attack your thyroid. Whatever the case may be, your body, when it's toxic, what does it use to protect itself from the toxins? Fat, yeah. So your body uses fat to store toxins. And if you are toxic, your body will not let go of that fat. So that's why, and that's another reason why every single morning when I have my Metaclear shake, I know that not only am I getting all my vitamins and I'm having a low glycemic breakfast to keep my blood sugar level stable, but I'm also getting something that's going to boost my liver in terms of the detox pathways. Every day there is a low dose of detox that you're boosting to help your body move this stuff out. Does that make sense? Because how often are toxins going in? Sometimes or all the time? All the time. So you have to give your body the support it needs to clean house. Avoid toxic meats with added hormones, grain-fed, we talked about that. Avoid birth control pill and HRT, two main things that will start the mess to begin with, and eliminate estrogen mimicking plastics. So that's in your handout also, how to avoid that bisphenol A. Look, first and foremost, look at the bottom of any plastic containers that you have. If they have a number 7 or 3 in the middle of that recycle sign, then they probably do have BPA. Dashboards now on the cars, anything that's flexible plastic that doesn't crack has BPA in it. The receipts that you get from the cash register when you go to the grocery store has it on there. It's in the bottles. So all this stuff, believe it or not, it's in some of the sealants and the composites and the amalgam fillings that they put in your mouth. Okay, so these are, look on this side for the safer alternatives. The reality is that this toxin is found in 93% of the population over the age of 6. When they've taken urine samples, they found it across the board, 93% of the time. We're all exposed to it, all of us. So it just leaches in from everywhere. And again, we need to be doing things on a daily basis to be getting that out with a daily detox. But in addition to that, obviously be conscious of making choices to use, instead of plastic bottles that may have those numbers, that may have the BPA, use stainless steel or glass containers to drink your water out of. Make sure if you're bringing home, takeout food that they put in plastic. You never put it in the microwave. You never want to heat it up, because that plastic, the hotter you make it, the more it's going to leach those chemicals into your body. So those chemicals, that bisphenol A, by the way, it has a very similar structure to estrogen. So when it goes into your body, it's 400,000 times stronger than the plant estrogens that I was talking about earlier, like the wild yam roots. 400,000 times. So it doesn't go into your body and say, hey, You need any help here? Can I help you? No, what does it do? It forces its way through there, and it just disrupts your endocrine system, your hormonal system significantly. So this is a big thing. If you could start getting a hold of this, you're going to help to bring stability to your hormonal system. So look at that. You have that in the handout. Supplemental support. Can't tell you how important this is. It's not a recommendation anymore. It's a requirement. It's an absolute requirement if you want to, to really start to make application and plug up some of these leaky holes in the bucket, so to speak. Studies show since the early turn of the century compared to now, I mean, there's been almost 100% lost demineralization of our soil. I mean, we used to have like 70 plus trace minerals. Now we have like 3 that they replenish in the soil. That's just trace minerals. But when you look at the vitamins, since 1960, in the last 50 to 60 years, the nutritional content in most of our vegetables is down on average by 50%. Did you know that? Yeah, the nutritional content is down significantly. So when you bite into an orange or an apple, or you have some vegetables, you're like, oh wow, this is high in vitamin C or vitamin A or the B vitamins. You're not even getting a fraction of what you think you're getting. You might be a nutritionist, you may have a great interest in nutrition, and they say, one serving of this has this, this, and this. No, not anymore. It doesn't work like that. So supplements are a requirement these days. It's just the world that we live in. So with the supplement suite, these are the ones that we're recommending because it's going to apply to everything that you need to balance your hormones and bring everything back into order. Why vitamin D? Because it's not a vitamin, it's a hormone. We happen to live in the sunshine state, but go figure, we don't get enough sunlight to make adequate levels of vitamin D. How many of you guys lay out in the sun for 20 minutes every day? Nobody? That's strange. Okay, so most of us, especially African American, are prone to vitamin D deficiencies. And when you take a vitamin and it says on the side you have 100% of the RDA requirements, which is 400 international units, that's what they found decades ago to prevent rickets and scurvy. But what further studies show is that when you take somewhere between 5 and 10,000 international units, it'll prevent almost 75% of all the different cancers: rectal cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, all these cancers. So why wouldn't you want to do that? If cancer kills 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 2 men, why would you not want to take a vitamin D supplement? It strengthens your immune system, literally off the charts. So you take one of those little capsules every day. And the next one is the probiotic. Why? Because we talked about happy hormones, right? What's a happy hormone? Which hormone was the happy hormone?
Progesterone.
Progesterone, very good. So the happy neurotransmitter that works with the happy hormone is serotonin. And serotonin is the one that they mess with the drug, the antidepressants. So people on antidepressants, they manipulate the serotonin level so that they feel happy all the time. If you have leaky gut syndrome, or you're taking antibiotics, or you have a lot of sugar and your gut is fermented, or you have irritable bowel syndrome, or your gut is not right, your intestines are not right, your body will not make the proper serotonin, because where is 80% of the production of serotonin taking place? In your intestines. They call that the second brain. They used to think serotonin and all the neurotransmitters were made in your brain. It's not. It's in your gut. So who needs and who should be taking a probiotic? Everybody. Yeah. 80% of the strength of your immune system also comes from your gut as well. The Super EPA, the fish oil capsules, improves brain function, helps fight depression, stabilizes blood sugar, lowers blood pressure, lowers triglycerides, prevents cancer, promotes healthy skin, anti-inflammatory, pain reliever, helps with PMS and dysmenorrhea. Need I say more? Can you say bang for the buck? Bang for the buck, yeah. And then the Relora Plus helps balance which levels? Cortisol. Did we talk about that tonight? Okay, so if you can help to balance your cortisol levels, are you on track for balancing all your hormones? Yes?
Yes.
And the DHEA. Those two are going to be supported with the Relora Plus. And it also supports weight management by reducing stress-related eating habits. So it'll stop those cravings because it's helping to keep your blood sugar levels stable when it balances the cortisol levels. Does that make sense? Okay. So that is your supplement suite for tonight. That's what we recommend. All the Thorne nutraceutical doctors always put these together because they're synergistic, which means when you take them together, they have an amplified effect to work more effectively, more efficiently. Of course, everything that's labeled or branded by Thorne comes with it the world-class quality and bioavailability, which means it doesn't have any binders or fillers which would lock up the nutrients and not allow your body to absorb it. So with the Thorne supplements, your body absorbs 100% of it, and you get the clinical result that we're looking for. So it's 20% off tonight. Also 20% off the shakes, the Mediclear shake. The thing with the Mediclear shake, like I said, you have the detox, you have a breakfast, and you have all of your multivitamin spectrum on that. All the B vitamins, B6, B12, B2, B1, the whole B vitamin spectrum is vitally important also to keep your hormones balanced, whether you're a man or a woman. So that's why, again, take the supplements, but make sure you're covering all bases. And with the Mediclear, it's just, with the shake in the morning, it's just a no-brainer. I keep saying it over and over again. You're going to spend much less having this as your breakfast instead of your cereal or your oatmeal and all the other things that you buy to try to feed yourself every day of the week. You just take a couple of scoops of that, your almond butter, and some berries, and you make a shake, or that's it. You eat it separate. As long as it goes down the hatch, you've got a good, low glycemic, blood sugar stabilizing breakfast of champions. So I strongly recommend that. 20% off on just everything that we've talked about tonight, 10% off anything else. And as always, again, the discounts are only on the workshop. If you guys want to save an additional, or not an additional, but anybody else who wants to get one of these gift certificates, if you want to save 25% on any individual product, basically just give us a 5-star review on Facebook or Google and take a picture of it, a snapshot, and we will honor that for you. How many of you guys have done reviews for us? How many of you guys have done reviews? Yeah, thank you so much. I can't tell you how big of an impact that makes. You have no idea. It's huge. People see that, and when they see 5 stars and they see a place that has 50, 60 people that have all done 5-star reviews, there's trust there. So, it helps. You're helping other people when you do that. So, I'm going to finish up here with one more thing. Please don't get out of your seats. Doc, can you turn the air down there for me? I don't know why it went off, but it's crazy stuff here. All right. Thanks for your patience. We got 5 more minutes. How am I doing on time? Good? All right. Okay. So clear neurological function. I want to educate you on something called your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus is a region in the brain that communicates with the rest of your nervous system. It receives signals from all possible sources in your nervous system, a clearinghouse for information concerning the internal well-being of the body to maintain homeostasis, which is balance. Regulates your heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, digestion, emotional response, behavior, libido, body and skin temperature, appetite, thirst, and body fluids, sleep cycles, metabolism, and much more. All controlled by your what? Hypothalamus. Yes. The effectiveness of the hypothalamus is directly proportional to the functional capability of the nervous system to what? Read this. Send and receive nerve messages traveling along the spinal cord. So that means that little hypothalamus all the way up there depends on all the messages coming from the parts of the body going into the spine and traveling up and then back down, and that's how your body coordinates all these functions. But there has to be a clear pathway, and there can't be any interference. If there is interference, we already know that depending on the level of the spine can determine which organs are affected and which hormonal imbalances or which symptoms may result. So down here, if you have a problem in your lower back, if there's interruption along the pathway of these nerves, it affects the sex organs. It can cause bladder problems, menstrual problems such as painful irregular periods, impotence, change of life symptoms. Here, you're affecting the kidneys. It can cause toxicity, chronic tiredness. This affects the pancreas. It can cause insulin resistance. Here, it can affect the thyroid. So anywhere along the course of the spine, and you can be eating good and exercising and doing all these things, but if there's an interference here, then the hypothalamus cannot regulate these functions properly. One of the main things that'll do this, and this is almost an epidemic, is when you lose the curve in the neck. So here's the curve in the neck. Hypothalamus sits up here. It's supposed to be sending all the energy and information down here. Here's the front of the neck, the back. Spinal cord is loose and relaxed for maximum flow. But here's the neck straight. And what happens is when you have a car accident, a slip, fall, you're sleeping on your, where you're sitting at the desk like this on the computer, sleeping on your stomach, falls from kids learning to walk, even the birthing process will take the curve right out of the neck. And it pulls down on the spinal cord and sucks the brainstem down into the bony canal. Now when that happens, what do you think that does to the communication network of the hypothalamus trying to communicate down with all the organs? What do you think? It just short circuits it, exactly. So then what happens? Well, you start losing energy. You start feeling tired, fatigued, depressed. You start getting all these symptoms. And a team of medical doctors at a fibromyalgia conference years ago were quoted as saying from their study, head and neck posture is a major factor in fatigue and immune function in patients suffering from fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and immune dysfunction syndrome, particularly because that brainstem right there, that's what controls your immune system, causing cancer, infections, and things of that nature. So what research has shown repeatedly over time, studies show that more than 50% of hyperthyroid patients have damage to the pathways in their what? With few exceptions, hormone deficiency or hormone excess is the result of pathological manifestations in what? In the neural pathways, yeah. Spinal lesions of the atlas axis, C1 and C2, the first cervical and second cervical vertebrae, were associated with abnormal function of the pituitary, resulted in abnormal what? Hormonal secretions. So this has been widely recognized in the medical community for many, many years. So why is it when people have hormonal imbalances, emotional challenges, and they feel like poop, why do they go for a drug instead of having their nervous system checked? It's a good question, right? Because basically it's a quick fix, yeah. But what science has already shown is that your spine is like the circuit breaker. All the energy has to get through. And if it doesn't matter how good you eat and exercise. I remember my dad exercising every day. That's why I exercise every day. Because as a 5-year-old child, I remember watching my dad get up in the morning and running in place, running all around our house and jogging, doing his army calisthenics. And, you know, he ate good, he exercised, but he had headaches every day. He was on thyroid medication. He was on anxiety medication. He had anger management problems. His testosterone was low. He had all types of health problems because when he was a kid, he dove into a lake. And at the bottom of the lake, there was this cast iron tub. And he didn't know the tub was down there. So he dove into the lake and his head smashed into the tub and cracked his skull open and left him bleeding and unconscious under there. He had a concussion, woke up in the hospital 2 weeks later. And that's when he opened his eyes, immediately his head felt like it was going to explode. And so after that, that's when he went on all those medications. The impact shifted that top bone out of alignment, jamming into his brainstem, blocking the proper neurological pathways, resulting in what? Abnormal hormonal secretions. There was not a day that went by that my dad did not beat my brother and I. There was not a day that went by that I didn't hear yelling and screaming in my house. He never hit my mom, but they would verbally argue, screaming at the top of their lungs. I remember watching my dad fist fight out on the front lawn with my neighbors. So talk about abnormal hormones. Can you see the point there? How do I know this for sure? Because when I was in chiropractic school, I came home on a Christmas break, and I had just learned what to do with somebody who has headaches. Because I walked through the front door, and there's my dad sitting there doing this. I said, oh, he's got a headache. Let me try something on him. So I started feeling this area right up here, C1, C2, and I turned his neck while I'm pushing in. All of a sudden, I hear this loud pop. He's like, what was that? I said, I don't know, I think the bone might have shifted back in place. I felt something that was out. So, make a long story short, 3 minutes later, his headache goes away. 8 months later, he calls me up at school. He says, I don't know what you did to me last time, but I still haven't had another headache. When's the next time you're coming home so you can practice on me some more? Next time I come home, I don't hear any yelling. You know? I graduate from school. Him and my mom are taking vacations. We never traveled as kids. We never went anywhere. He was married to his medications. Couldn't take anywhere, couldn't go anywhere with my dad. It was an embarrassment. Him and my mom are taking vacations everywhere. He's off all his medications, got off his thyroid medication, got off anxiety medication, got off his stomach medications, got off all his medications, doesn't have any headaches anymore. My dad will tell you that chiropractic gave him his life back, but honestly, chiropractic gave me my dad back. It gave my mother her husband back. Because when I cleared this out, what did it do? It cleared the pathway to restore normal function of the pituitary, which resulted in normal hormonal secretions. Does that make sense? Okay. Can a wild Mexican yam do that? Move a bone off a brainstem? No. Can a paleo diet move the brain off a brainstem? Move the bone off the brainstem? No. Can your fish oil capsules move the bone off the brainstem? No. So why am I saying that? Because you may be sitting here, and if you're not a patient, and you're eating good and exercising and doing all this stuff, and you've never had your spine checked, that's the most important and most commonly overlooked essential to overall neurological hormonal health and function. So just like you go through life and you go to a dentist and you get your teeth checked, don't you think it's a good idea every once in a while that you should have your spine checked? Because you don't necessarily feel when the bone's shifted out of alignment, putting pressure on the nerve. Biomechanics expert at the University of Colorado, Dr. Chung Ha Su, said the weight of a dime on a spinal nerve will reduce the nerve transmission by as much as what? 60%. And when that happens, that can be the cause of hormonal-related health problems. Now, if that happens, it's like a wheel out of alignment on the car. And if that bone stays like that, it starts to wear out very, very quickly. And it's like a cavity, but you don't feel it in the beginning stages. You ever go to the dentist and they put the x-ray up and you see the black speck? And they say, oh, you got a cavity. Well, my tooth doesn't hurt. Early stages. If you don't fix it, what happens? It gets worse. So you have these phases of decay in your spine. And, you know, the kids are here, textbook normal. You know, they don't go too far when we check the kids. But when adults come in and they're 30, 40, 50 years old and they're here, can we ever get them back here? No, the discs and the bones have degenerative disc disease and bone disease. You can't reverse that. You can stop it from getting worse. But when the bones come closer together because the discs wear out, now you have some permanent level of damage to the nerve and may never be able to regain 100% function. So when's the best time to have this checked to make sure that you prevent this? As early as possible. That's why we check kids in the office. So it's vitally important that you have your spine checked on a regular basis. Again, I'm talking to you if you're a guest here. If you've never done this, what's the consideration? If you're having signs like fatigue, no energy, insomnia, poor sleep, chronic colds and flus, again, imbalance in the nervous system. Sinus trouble, allergies can be caused by that. Headaches, brain fog, depression, neck and lower back pain, numbness, tingling. Very, very common signs when your spine is out of alignment, interfering with that. But I would say more importantly, you know, having your spine checked on a regular basis, from a preventative standpoint, more and more people I see are doing this every year. In fact, the Olympic athletes do it, and all the people that you see, like with the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup, you guys watch all that? All of the elite athletes, they do it also. And so this is the most important reason. This is the place where people are proactive, they're wise with their time and their money, they get it checked, and more people are doing this to save themselves time and save money. So what do? You use technology. The thermal scan gives us a quick look at what's happening, what's in balance or what's out of balance. Whether you have pain or no pain, it'll locate exactly where the problems, the levels of nerve interference are, maybe causing hormonal imbalances, maybe causing back pain, whatever the case is. And if we find that there and it warrants us taking an x-ray, then the x-ray will confirm, rule it in or rule it out, and it'll give us a picture of what your spine looks like. Now, normally when people come into the office, we take our time, we do a posture evaluation, the thermal scan, range of motion, we take a family history, and if we take x-rays, that's upwards of $300 worth of service. If you're a guest here tonight and you've never had your spine checked, or you haven't done it in a long time, or you're not an active patient in this office, we will do that for only $40. And again, the offer is only good for tonight because I try to solve problems, you know, for people. Number one, money is a big issue, so we're able to get over that hurdle. The other problem is procrastination. I can't fix that for you, but I can motivate you to get it done. Because when I leave, the offer leaves with me. Again, it's $350 worth of service for only $40. but that offer's only good for tonight. Now that $40, mind you, goes to our mission to Haiti. So we support a mission through our church where we send funds to support multiple villages all over Haiti. This one was rebuilt after the earthquake. And anytime that I go speak out in the community or people come here, anytime we do that promotional offer, 100% of that $40 goes toward the mission to Haiti. And so I want to thank, for those of you who are here right now, because you've done that and you've participated in that. Yes?
Now, I have a question. The fund is a big day for both. Since this is for medical medicine, it's a what is important? Why is insurance and not covered?
All insurances are different, so we had a question about insurance. All insurances are different. So if you're a guest here, what the process is the $40 covers you for that first visit, everything that you need. But bring your insurance card. If you want us to call it, we'll find out what they pay for and what they don't pay for. But everybody's a little bit different. So Dr. Denson, can you raise your hand? Dr. Francesca is over there also. So if you're a guest, please go over there and see them, and they'll make your appointment for you. Again, that $350 worth of service for only $40 tonight only. If you guys need to get some supplements, we have limited supplies, limited quantities. You can see them up front. And don't forget to get registered for next month's workshop. Thanks for coming tonight, guys. Love and appreciate you. God bless.